What happens when the battlefield of modern warfare is no longer just land, sea, or air, but the very soul of the military itself? In an era of escalating global tensions, a fierce internal struggle is being waged within the corridors of power over the identity and purpose of the world's most formidable fighting force. Is the United States military's primary function to be an instrument of unmatched lethality, a sharp and deadly deterrent to its adversaries? Or has it become a laboratory for social and political ideologies, where diversity initiatives and identity politics are prioritized over combat readiness? This question exploded into the public square during a congressional hearing where Congressman Pat Fallon confronted the new Defense Secretary. It was a masterclass in political maneuvering, where Fallon laid out a damning narrative of a military allegedly weakened by wokeness, personified by the celebration of a transgender officer over combat heroes. But was this a genuine crusade to restore the military's warfighting ethos, or was it a brilliantly executed piece of political theater designed to rally a base and frame a powerful public narrative? This exchange was more than just questions and answers. It was a declaration of war for the military's future.
Mr. Secretary, we'll have a little bit of time to talk about all that. General Kane, is it true or not true that in 1988 you were at Plattsburgh Air Force Base as an ROTC cadet?
Yes, sir. I think I was. Yeah.
You recognize the person you're addressing right now?
Yeah, I actually do. Yes, sir. Please don't tell anybody how we did out there.
We did. We were athletic officers in 1980.
Yes,
I believe you worked for me at the time.
I did, sir. I still do.
Kinda, yeah. And just for the record, there was a Commandant Award recognizing the best cadet of all 200, and they got that right because it was the man sitting in front of me, General Kane, who won that. So I got out as a captain, so you're winning. General Kane, I want to talk to you about the lessons learned in Ukraine and how important that is. I also sit on the Intelligence Committee, and how we can best deter in the Indo-Pacific, because that is of vital import. We don't want to get into a hot war with a peer adversary. And then if you could also just touch on the importance of innovation and acquisition reform.
Yes, sir. As I've talked about before, the entrepreneurial spirit out there in Europe is one that we've all learned from. And as we look at creating multiple simultaneous cognitive, fiscal, and physical dilemmas for our adversaries around the world, we have to take that same entrepreneurial spirit and bring it back here to our nation, both in our national and our defense industrial base. So the importance of mass scale, building a DIB and a national base that can provide the combat capability that our warfighters need at the tactical edge is something that both the Secretary and I, as well as the services, are very focused on.
Oh, thank you. And you're both a breath of fresh air. Mr. Secretary, I wanted to visit with you a little bit about recruiting first, and then I do want to talk about politics in the military. We have seen a recruiting bump, thank the Lord, over the last 3-4 years. It was a crisis. And if we didn't solve it, I don't know what we're going to do. So I would like to ask you, because I've asked each of the secretaries of each branch to really do a deep dive and come back to Congress and let us know, because I want to start with doubts and end uncertainties. Find out the reasons why the change, whatever they may be, because whatever we're doing right, we need to continue to do so we don't get in this situation. And if you all need some extra funding, if you have folks that are willing to come in, I would rather have a few more than a few less. And also want to talk about the fact that I think you are a breath of fresh air, not only the general, but yourself, because the first thing that you said to us was you are going to reintroduce warfighting and lethality and force projection into our military, and you specifically said that you did not want to see politics infest, because we had people up here in the last few years that were clearly like a Democratic general. I never want to see that again. I don't want to see a Republican general. I want to see American generals, and American generals only ever address us. And I thought it was a travesty, and I have a case in point. We have here, this individual was, I believe, a major in the Army, was exalted and venerated above all 2 million active and reservists by the DOD, the former DOD. Why? Was there any excellence that was done? Was there a life saved? Was there a computer program written by cyber? No, it was because this person was transsexual and they had a political flag in uniform and they were waving it. That was disgusting, not because there was a transsexual, because that was a political statement, and this person did nothing of excellence at all to be recognized. And instead, we should be venerating people like Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart, who gave their lives to save Mike Durant and won the Medal of Honor. That's the lethality. That's what will deter the Chinese, and that's what will deter our enemies. And I'd like to give you a minute and 13 seconds to expound on that and maybe answer Mr. Ryan. Thank you.
Well, amen, and you're exactly right. That's precisely what we want to return to and restore. And every accusation and insinuation that is politicizing is blatantly false, and they know it. Ultimately, there were ideologies and particular political perspectives being injected into our forces. Call it political correctness, call it DEI, call it CRT, call it what you want. They were being injected in. Our job has been to remove those political ideologies and go back to basics. High standards that are the same. We're not looking at race. We're not emphasizing your differences. We're focusing on our unity, which is the point of any formation. Every formation I've ever looked at, I didn't look at the race or background of the people in that formation. I wanted the most capable leader, squad leader, team leader across the spectrum, able to do the job. Because when it hits the fan, that's what I need. And our enemies need to see that. And let me say something about the chairman. He is the most professional.
Congressman Pat Fallon's performance in this hearing was far more than a simple line of questioning. It was a meticulously constructed narrative delivered with the precision of a political strategist. To truly understand its impact, we must dissect his methodology, not as an attempt to elicit new information, but as a masterclass in shaping public perception. Fallon's objective was not discovery, but declaration. He entered the room with a story to tell, and he used his allotted time to build that story, brick by brick, in the minds of the audience. The central thesis was clear and powerful. The previous administration had allowed the military to be infected by divisive political ideologies, prioritizing identity politics over the core mission of warfighting, and this new leadership, championed by Fallon, was the antidote. His entire presentation was engineered to lead to this singular, resounding conclusion. The analysis of his argumentation reveals a strategic, multi-stage approach. He began not with an attack, but with an active alliance building. His warm, personal exchange with General Kane served a critical purpose. By recalling their shared history at Plattsburgh Air Force Base and praising Kane's past achievements, Fallon established his own credentials. He wasn't just a politician in a suit. He was a former Air Force captain, an insider who understood the culture. This maneuver established a baseline of credibility and camaraderie, framing him as a guardian of military tradition. This foundation was crucial before he pivoted to his main target. Having established himself as one of the guys, he then turned to the secretary, not with a question, but with praise. He lauded the secretary's commitment to warfighting and lethality, effectively creating a pact between them. They were presented as allies on the same mission to purify the institution. This tactic brilliantly preempted any potential adversarial dynamic. The secretary was not a witness to be interrogated, but a partner whose righteous mission Fallon was there to publicly endorse and justify. The logical structure of his core argument relied heavily on emotional appeal and a classic rhetorical fallacy, the straw man combined with a false dichotomy. He did not present data on declining readiness, statistical evidence of recruitment shortfalls directly linked to diversity policies or internal military surveys. Instead, he presented a single, emotionally potent anecdote, the honoring of a transgender major. He portrayed this individual's recognition not as an isolated event, but as the symbol of a systemic ideological rot. He then juxtaposed this political act against the ultimate military sacrifice of Medal of Honor recipients Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart. This created a stark, binary choice for the audience. You can either celebrate lethality and heroism, or you can celebrate identity politics. There was no room for a nuanced reality where a military can and does both. This is a powerful, albeit logically flawed, method of persuasion. It simplifies a complex issue into a moralistic tale of good versus evil, making his position seem like the only logical and patriotic choice. His strategic objective, therefore, was not to uncover facts, but to cement a narrative. The hearing was his stage, and his audience was not the committee, but the public, watching at home. He was providing a simple, digestible, and infuriating story that would resonate deeply with a political base already primed to believe that traditional institutions are under attack from progressive ideologies. The congressman's attitude and demeanor were instrumental in selling this narrative. His tone shifted dramatically throughout the exchange. With General Kane, it was warm, respectful, and nostalgic. With the secretary, it was validating and encouraging. But when he spoke of the former DOD and the transgender major, his voice took on a tone of righteous indignation. The use of loaded, emotional language like disgusting and travesty was not accidental. These are not words of impartial inquiry. They are words of moral condemnation. They are designed to provoke an emotional response in the listener, outrage, anger, and a sense of betrayal. This prosecutorial style positions Fallon as a defender of sacred values, a warrior fighting against the desecration of a beloved institution. This aggressive posture serves to intimidate any opposition and energize his supporters. It transforms a policy debate into a culture war battle, and in that arena, passion often trumps policy. His control over the exchange was absolute, a testament to his skill in managing the flow of the narrative. This was most evident in how he handled the witness. There was no need to react or adapt to the Secretary's answers, because the answers were a foregone conclusion. Fallon constructed his questions as statements, laying out the entire premise, evidence, and conclusion, leaving the Secretary only to agree. When he said, "I'd like to give you a minute and 13 seconds to expound on that," he wasn't asking for a counterargument. He was handing the Secretary a platform to echo his own sentiment. The Secretary's response, "Well, amen. And you're exactly right," was the climactic validation of Fallon's entire performance. The Secretary then went even further, explicitly naming DEI and CRT as the political ideologies being removed. This exchange was not an interrogation. It was a carefully choreographed duet. Fallon was the conductor, and the Secretary was his willing first violin. There was no evasion or resistance to handle, and therefore, no need for tactical adaptation. He successfully controlled the entire conversation, ensuring that no alternative viewpoint or complicating fact could penetrate the narrative he had so carefully constructed. In conclusion, Pat Fallon's performance was not a genuine effort to investigate military policy, but a masterful execution of political theater. He employed a sophisticated strategy that combined establishing personal credibility, building alliances with his witness, and using emotionally charged, logically fallacious arguments to advance a specific political agenda. He created a compelling story of a revered institution corrupted by outside ideologies and presented himself and the new leadership as its saviors. He demonstrated an acute understanding that in the modern political landscape, controlling the narrative is often more powerful than presenting facts. The ultimate question posed at the beginning was this about restoring military focus or political performance is answered decisively. It was a performance, one designed to bypass nuanced debate and appeal directly to the cultural anxieties of a nation, confirming that the battle for the heart of the American military is being fought not in hearing rooms for the sake of policy, but on the public stage for the prize of political power. What is your take on this exchange? Was Congressman Fallon a patriot defending the military's core values, or a politician exploiting a sensitive issue for political gain? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses.